Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. I'm Brian, Mr. Smith. This is my kitchen. If this is your first time with us, you found me on YouTube. Awesome. Glad you stopped by. Hope you take away something out of this. If you're returning to the channel, awesome. That means I did something right. Or you're a glutton for punishment. Either way it goes. Quick synopsis. Tuesdays, we sit around and talk about whatever you want, whatever I find, social issues, current events, things like that. Hang out around the kitchen table. Wednesdays, we try to cook supper. Thursdays, we bake something. On occasion, we'll do, take a look at the garden. We do canning, a lot of home stuff, basically, and things you do in the kitchen, basically. So while I'm thinking about it, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want. That way you know when I send out a video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, completely up to you. I'll take either. And as always, I encourage comments, good, bad, or otherwise. Try to keep them user-friendly. I do have young people that watch my channel along with older people, and none of us like mean comments. They don't bother me. Let's just get that out in the open. I have better things to worry about than mean comments or hateful thoughts, but let's try to be respectful. Anyhow, that being said, today we're going to do a recipe I actually was tagged in on Facebook, and it didn't say whose recipe it was offhand, at least I don't remember it saying it, but it's a glazed lemon zucchini bread. So with zucchini, you can buy zucchini in the grocery store. You can use homemade zucchini or homegrown zucchini, either or. I know not everybody grows their own zucchini. Oh, there goes my oven. But you can buy zucchini at the store. They're usually kind of small. If you use the larger ones, you're probably going to make a dozen of these loaves of bread out of a larger one. The recipe itself only calls for a cup of zucchini. So, just go to the grocery store and buy a smaller one. Or if you have a smaller one hanging on a vine, awesome. Anyhow, so that being said, tools you will need. First thing you'll need is a recipe, which I have in a notebook. Always write it down in the notebook. I have decided that instead of if I like the recipe, we're going to put it in the recipe box. Now that that's not a great idea, but we've collected so many recipes, the recipe box is almost full. And a lot of the recipes that we do, there's so much writing involved it doesn't always fit on a card. So instead, I have bought two different folders, one for dinners, one for desserts, and I'm just going to write down the recipes as we go. This is, like most recipes, a recipe I have never made before, ever, so we're going to learn it for the first time together and see how it tastes together. Okay, so other tools you'll need, you will need a sifter of some sort. You can use a sifter, or you can use a fine mesh strainer. Whatever works for you, whatever you have available. Strainer or sifter is only like $5 at the store, maybe $8. Recommend one. Another thing you need is a bread pan. I'm using a 3x9 bread pan. Try to use metal, they seem to work best. This one here is got a, it's nonstick. To it, but that being said, when you get your bread pan out, make sure you spray it with a spray or coat it with butter or whatever your liking is. I also recommend, even though you don't see it in here, putting a piece of parchment paper down if you have parchment paper, just on the bottom of it. Helps it to not stick, it ensures. I am currently out of parchment paper, so we're going to run without it today and hope for the best. I think we'll be okay though. I've not used parchment paper in that pan a dozen times and we're fine. Alright. Last tool you will need, other than a couple bowls and a whisk and a rubber spatula, a scale. Scales are important. When I give you the ingredients list, it will be in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons, but it will also be in grams. That way you can be accurate with your baking. That's best practice, is to go by grams and use a scale. Grams, ounces, pounds. And scales aren't expensive. They're like $10. Last things you'll need, a spatula and a whisk. Doesn't matter what kind of whisk. Right here. Got it going on. All right. That covers tools. So, ingredients. Not many. fairly straightforward ingredients list. You will need, let's start with dry goods. You will need 2 cups of cake flour. All right. Now, cake flour is a finer, powderier flour. It's designed for cakes. If you don't have cake flour, that's fine. Just use regular all-purpose flour, like you would make a roux with or any other cake or bread. This recipe just called for cake flour, and you're going to need 2 cups, 228 grams. That's what you need the sifter for. Cake flour, you have to sift through. It always has clumps, and it's almost impossible to not get them, or to get them all out if you don't sift. The next thing you will need is a half a teaspoon of salt, 2 grams, right there. And then you will need 2 tablespoons or 8 grams of baking powder. You will need 2 large eggs, which is 100 grams-ish. If you look on the side of an egg carton, it'll tell you large eggs are 50 grams a piece. Right here we got our 2 large eggs. But I have found that they vary by a gram or 2, so that's okay. You just need 2 large eggs. You will need a half a cup of canola oil. Now, if you don't have canola oil, you can use vegetable oil, but the recipe calls for canola, so that's what we're going to use today. You will need 1 1/3 cup, 267 grams of regular plain granulated sugar, same stuff you'd put in your coffee or your sweet tea or whatever you use sugar for. You will need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now, there's a couple options here that I'm going to give you on this. Okay, 2 tablespoons is 27 grams, by the way. The recipe also calls for lemon zest. Okay, and like I said in previous videos, that is just literally the outside of a lemon. You know, like this lemon here has been zested, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but see how there's still some dark shiny spots? That's the zest part. You do not want to get into where the light part is. The white part, very bitter. Very, very bitter. But the lemon zest itself is actually very sweet and has oils in it. So, your 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, you can either get it from the lemon you just zested. We slice ours up and put them in water. Put it in water for a refreshing drink. Or you can just use bottled lemon juice. But anyhow, it's 2 tablespoons, 27 grams of lemon juice. You are going to need a half a cup of buttermilk, which I got right here in this container, which is 150 grams. If you don't want to use buttermilk, we buy powdered buttermilk. That way it lasts forever. A lot of times you have to buy an entire pint or quarter gallon of buttermilk, and you use a little bit of it and it sits in the fridge, it goes bad. So we buy powdered, but you can also take a cup of regular milk and put a tablespoon of lemon juice in it. Tablespoon of lemon juice in it. Let it sit for about a half hour. It will curdle like buttermilk, and bam, you've got buttermilk. So you need half a cup, 150 grams of buttermilk. You need 1 lemon zested, which is about a tablespoon. And then you need 1 cup of grated zucchini. Grated. And you want it to be dry. Okay, so zucchini, when you first grate it up, it's very moist. It's wet. It's got a lot of water in it, just like a cucumber. It's in the cucumber family. So what you'll want to do is take that, and I just simply put mine in my fine mesh strainer, and kind of rubbed it around a little bit, and I got some of the water out, and then I let it sit. Some of the water self-drained, and then I just simply used my hand and I squeezed it, which let all that water come out of it. So we got dry zucchini. When you measure it out in your measuring cup, pack it down. You can see it. There's on top of the glare, there is some spots in there that are air gaps. You don't want those air gaps. You want it to be truly 1 cup. And that, my friends, is our ingredients list. So let's get started with how to make this. It's really easy. First thing you want to do, turn your oven on, 350 degrees. Okay, it's 180 degrees Celsius, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and get that bad boy warming up. While that's warming up, the next thing we're going to do, here, let me bring the camera down so you can hear my voice, and I'm sure you'd much rather see what I'm doing than see my smiling face. So let's bring you down slowly so I don't make you dizzy. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so we're going to take our 2 cups, 228 grams of flour, baking, our cake flour. All right, I've already sifted mine. It's really an easy process. You pour it in the sifter or the and you turn the sifter's handle, or if you use 5-mesh strainer, you just push it through. We're into that. We're just going to add our salt, half a teaspoon, 2 grams, and we're going to add our 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which is anybody, 8 grams. All right, and we're going to put those in there. Then we're going to take our whisk. We're going to whisk this together as such. Now, when you use salt, we use a kosher salt, but we use a fine kosher salt. If you can't find a fine kosher salt, buy a regular kosher salt and just grind it up. You know, even if it's just to pinch it between your fingers. If you don't, you will end up with a salt chunk somewhere down the road. And then I know in my case, Chris, my wife, if you're new to the channel, always seems to find that piece that's got the salt clump in it. So, for the sake of having somebody in your family get a salt clump and go, oh, that tastes salty, grind it up a little. Yeah, or you can use table salt. I mean, there's no rule that says you have to use whatever salt you use in your house is what you should use. All right, we got that mixed up. Next thing we're going to do is set that aside. All right, so that portion's our dry is done. So you're going to want to grab your second bowl right here, and we're going to take our eggs. Now your eggs should be at room temperature, okay? So let them sit out for about a half hour before you do anything with them. And we're going to take our whisk again, and we're just going to beat those up. So like we're making scrambled eggs. Just like such. All right, we got those whisked up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our oil and sugar. Okay, so we're going to put our half a cup of canola oil in there. And then we're going to put our, our 1 1/3, 267 grams of sugar in there. And then we're going to whisk those up. Now, you can use a mixer, a stand mixer, a hand mixer, whatever. But, I mean, it's a nice day out, and I think a whisk will be just fine. And you're not looking to, because we're not looking to make, like in a cake, we would take this mix, you know, maybe with some butter, and we'd whip it, you know, beat it, mix it until it's, you know, light and airy and fluffy. We don't need that. Right now, we're just combined, okay? The sugar's wet with the eggs and the oil. That's all we need to do. After that, after they're blended, we're going to add in our lemon juice, our buttermilk, our lemon zest, and then we're going to blend those together. So we'll go ahead and get our buttermilk out. I could have showed you the buttermilk, but it's in a white container, and buttermilk is white, so it doesn't really serve a purpose. So we're going to put our buttermilk in there, our lemon juice in there, just like such. Get those out of the way, put them in the hot water, so that way I can just wash them real quick. And then our lemon zest. Boom. Now, one thing you can do, because if you're not careful, your lemon, and then we're just going to blend this together, okay? Your lemon zest can clump on you if you don't stir real good, okay? If you're not mixing it real good. So, alternative to this, now I didn't say this in the directions, I just know this from experience. If you take your lemon zest and put it in your sugar before you put your sugar in here and mix that together, what happens is the sugar takes some of the oil from the lemon zest and keeps your lemon zest from clumping together. And that way you get you have a greater chance of having an even distribution of the lemon zest and oil. But I am following the instructions to this, you know, and it did not say to do that, but you can do that, okay? Anytime you're using lemon zest in baking, mix it in with your sugar first. All right, so we got that all mixed together. This really is like the easiest recipe in the world. Matter of fact, we're 95% of the way there. All right, so we got that mixed up. Next thing we're going to do is, this is where your rubber spatula comes into play. We're going to put our zucchini in here. Okay. Now, all we want to do is, we don't necessarily want to beat that in. We're going to fold it in, all right? And all that does is make sure you get it, and it would be a mess to try to put that in with a whisk. You get it all over, the zucchini all over your whisk. You don't want that. So, that in the directions say to fold it in. All right, so that took a whole 2 seconds, and we got that folded in. But we're going to continue to mix with our rubber spatula. So, now we're going to add the dry, our flour mix, to the wet. All right, and we're just going to blend this together. You don't have to get all the lumps out. It's okay if you don't. I mean, that I knew from bread making. Yeah, dessert breads, or quick breads as these are called, yeah, they're kind of universally the same. How you make them is kind of the same. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and fold this in. And we're going to get everything blended. It's kind of like a pancake mix. It's okay if you got little lumps in it. It will all bake through. I promise. Okay, so we got this all mixed up. As you can see right there, we're good and mixed, but we still have a little bit of chunks in there. We just want to incorporate. Part of the chunks are the zucchini itself. Okay, but you don't. The reason why you don't use your whisk is you don't want it to be smooth. You just want it to be incorporated. Dessert breads aren't made to be like a fluffy cake. They're supposed to be a little dense, a little moist, or a lot moist, but a little denser than a cake. So you don't want to sit there and whip a bunch of air into it by using your spatula. You're just getting things combined. Now you want to make sure you get on the bottom and you don't have any loose flour sitting on the bottom. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Final step. We're going to grab our bread pan, and we're just going to pour this into the bread pan. Now, like I said, you want to grease your bread pan. Even though mine's nonstick, I still oil it. You can use a vegetable spray like I did, or a butter spray. You can use melted butter. You could use Crisco for that matter. But you want to put that barrier of protection between your pan and your bread. All right. Get all this goodness out of here. There we are. Looking good so far. Now I will say, like I said, I've never made this before. We're making it the first time together. The batter itself does seem to be a little thinner than some sweetbread batters that I've made. But that's all right. That doesn't mean it's not going to bake up and it's not going to be lovely and tender and delicious. So let's talk about the oven for a minute. Let's bring you back up here so I can see your smiling face. There you are. Yep, looking great. Okay, so how are we baking this? Like I said, we preheated our oven to 350 degrees right when we started putting this all together. And it didn't take long to put together. It's relatively quick. And according to the directions, we are going to bake this at 350 degrees. And it's going to be for about 50 to, that's 50 to 60 minutes. Excuse me. And that time is going to vary because everybody's oven's a little different. Everybody's oven heats a little differently. My 350 may not be what your 350 is. Every once in a while you'll get an oven that actually heats to what the temperature says. Most of them do when they start out brand new, but as time goes by and parts wear out, things change. Now I have a thermometer hanging in my oven, so that way I know if I can look at it, and if I have it on 350, it should say 350 also. If it doesn't, we can adjust. But that being said, if you don't, we'll do this for 50 to 60 minutes. Things you're going to probably start looking for, like most breads, and you'll start checking at about 45 minutes, is put a toothpick down the center of it. If it comes out clean, maybe a couple crumbs on it, you're done. It should have a nice golden brown look to it. If you pull it out of the oven, you should be able to touch the top, not necessarily with your bare hand, and the bread should bounce back. And I'll show you all this when we come back. But those are things to start looking for. It'll start pulling away from the sides. It should be spongy on the top, firm but have bounce. When you should be able to put a toothpick in the center of it, and it should come out clean. Maybe a couple little crumbs, but mostly clean. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in the oven. And halfway through my baking process at 25 minutes, so I'm going to start it at 50. At 25 minutes, I'm going to take my pan and I'm going to turn it 180 degrees. That way I ensure I get even baking all the way around. Ovens have a tendency to have hot spots, which means you could have one side of your bread get darker than the other side of your bread, or it could bake quicker than the other side of your bread. So by turning it 180 degrees, you get an evenness. So when I come back, we will pull this out of the oven and we will make the icing glaze that goes on top of it, and I'll show you what I'm looking for when it comes to, is this done? All right, I'll see you here for you, a millisecond, for me, in about an hour. All right, see you shortly. Okay, guys, so we get the cake out of the oven. We let it go for 50 minutes, and we're going to check it to see if it's done. Well, I shouldn't say cake. I should say bread. It is a sweet bread, dessert bread. So let me get you down here so you can see what we need to do to make it, to make sure it's done. So first thing we want to do is we want to grab a toothpick, and you just want to put it down in the center of the bread. Okay, and this works for cakes also. Okay, so don't know if you can see it on there, but see how there's a couple of crumbs left? That's perfectly fine. That means that we're good. Another way you can test it is push down on it. See how it's firm? It's still a little hot, but it's firm. It doesn't have any wiggle to it, no jiggle. So we know we've got a good bread, okay? And that holds true for any baked good, cake, bread, sweet bread, regular bread, whatever. It should be firm like that, and you should be able to put a toothpick in it, and it should come out somewhat clean. Let me bring it up close to you so you can see what we got going on there. That is our bread. So the next thing that we're going to do, we got a few steps left. One of them is to make the icing, but we'll go over that shortly. Is you want to grab, you can use a knife, butter knife, kitchen knife, spatula, whatever, and we're just going to take it along the sides here. Because what's going to happen is this bread cools down, it's going to come off of the side, or it's going to want to pull away. We're just going to help make that easier for it. Because if you do happen to have something that's sticking, it won't come away from the side, and it can run you into tears and all that stuff. So we're going to run it along there, make sure we're in good shape, and we're off of there. That way we know we're not sticking on the sides. And I'm going to let this cool for about 5-10 minutes, okay? That way we can get it out of the pan. I was debating because it doesn't say in the directions whether to ice it in the pan or out of the pan. It just says, while still warm, put your icing on it. So I'm going to let that sit for a minute, and then we're going to take it out of the pan. I think it would be easier to ice it out of the pan versus in the pan. That way when we take it out, we don't get icing all over everything. So that being said, we're going to let this cool for about 5-10 minutes so we can handle it and get it out, and I'll get it out of the pan, and then we'll work on the icing. All right, see you in a second. Okay, so we let that sit for about 5-10 minutes. It's cool enough to touch now. I don't need a towel to hold it. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over and get it out of there, and look at that. Beautiful. And we're going to let it sit on this wire rack for a few more minutes and let it continue to cool. I don't want to put it on the pan right away because I want that bottom to harden up a little bit from where it was sitting in the pan. It's still soft. But what we can do while we're letting that cool is we'll go ahead and get our icing made. So the icing is really easy. It's a simple icing. Let me get you down here where you can see a little better. Let me move you down just a little bit more. Woo, there we go. Excellent. All right. So the icing is 3 ingredients. You've got 1 cup of powdered sugar, and you don't have to necessarily sift it, although you can. Powdered sugar is like baking, like bread flour or cake flour. It's very fine, light, likes to clump together, but we're gonna beat it up with a fork. So you got your 1 cup, 121 grams of powdered sugar. To that, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1 tablespoon of milk. Like I said, it's an easy icing to make. It's kind of like a cookie icing, kind of. And then we're just going to mix this together. You want to get it well incorporated. Try not to get any lumps, but if you do, that's okay. You can use a small whisk if you have one. This recipe, I wanted to show you how to do it with minimal tools. Tools that, even if you're just new to baking and you don't have a lot of money, can't afford a hand mixer, can't afford a, stand mixer or anything like that. With this recipe, you literally need a whisk, a spatula, 2 bowls, a fork. And that's pretty much it. So when you're mixing this together, you want it to be somewhat thick. Now, with this type of icing, as it sits on your cake or bread or whatever it is you're putting this on, as it sits out in the open, without a cover on it, or even with a cover on it, it'll start to harden. It's very similar to like the glaze you find on a glazed donut. It's and it's easy. It's so easy. This actually is, in my mind, a good sweet bread or dessert bread to make if you've never made bread before. Most dessert breads are easy to make. Not all of them, but most of them are, and they're a good way to introduce yourself into baking, if nothing else. All right, so see, we got our stuff together, and it's just basic old icing. So what we'll do is, now that we've let that cool for a minute, we're going to go ahead and bring our bread over. We're going to put it on our tray, or on our plate in this case, or if you have a pretty platter that you'd like to put it on, you can do that too. We got that on there. Let's go ahead and get rid of the rack. Ooh. All right, rack is gone. And what we're going to do is now we're going to grab a spoon. We'll grab a spoon, and then we're just going to spoon this on the top, and let it go down the sides. Let it get all ooey gooey. This is the good stuff. Now the lemon icing I know about. Matter of fact, I think I have a video on it. We make a blueberry lemon pound cake that is in a bundt pan, and I know there's a video on it. You can see it. But this is the icing that you would make to go on it. And I don't imagine, even with this, you would have to have the icing on it. Icing is always an option for the most part, unless you're making a true cake and then you want some kind of icing on it. But there is that. As you can probably see, it's drizzling down onto the pan there, onto the plate, which is fine. That's fine. That's all part of the process. The point is with this icing is to get it to just be all over, give it a nice shine and glaze over the top of it. It's not like a true cake icing where you're putting it on there and it stays on the top. You want it to kind of fold down on it. All right, so we got our icing on there. So we're going to set and we're going to let that finish cooling down and give the glaze a chance to firm up, harden up, become a nice, like I said, like a glazed donut glaze. And when I come back, we'll try a piece, see if we made something that tastes good. All right, I'll see you here in just 1 millisecond. Okay, so we let it cool for about another 20 minutes. The glaze is hardened. I see it on there. At least it's hardened enough for me, at any rate. Idealistically, you probably want to let it sit for about an hour or so. But I really want to try this. So we'll go ahead and get us a piece cut. Like I said, that glaze is pretty firm. I can already tell you just by cutting it, it's a moist bread. I think, at least texturally wise, it's going to be a wonderful work of art. So there is what our zucchini bread looks like on the inside. Nice and light in color, like it should be. With a lemony yellow look to it, hence the lemon zucchini. Got a nice denseness to it. There's our piece right there. So now, the only thing we have left to do is give it a shot. Let me bring it up here so you can watch me eat, essentially. Which is okay. I don't mind. I can eat in front of anybody. But I do want to try this and let you know. It just looks amazing. It's so moist. It is definitely moist. It's awesome. Even though it is a lemon-based cake or bread, it's not overpowering by any means. There's such a balance there with the lemon and the zucchini, and it has if you've ever had banana bread, it has that same texture to it. This is definitely a keeper of a recipe. And it doesn't take long to make. I mean, you spend more time waiting on it to bake in the oven, which I did for 50 minutes in my oven. But I also have a convection oven, which means the air circulates around a little better, has a fan in it. So it bakes a little quicker. So I'm going to guess, I would start, if you were baking it in just a normal traditional oven, I'd start checking it at 50 minutes. But that is a keeper of a recipe. It's so refreshing tasting. It's not heavy. Like I said, the lemon's not overbearing in it. It's not horribly sweet, even though we put that sugar glaze on the top. Good. It's a good bread. It's a keeper. Try this. If you do, let me know. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I like it. I'm pretty sure my family's going to like it. Let me know if you do like it. Let me know if you try it. Even if you don't like it, let me know. Be like, Brian, it's horrible. I'd be interested to find out why. If you do things a little differently, let me know. I'd be curious to hear how you make it yours. Or if you don't change anything. Like I said, I'm always interested in conversation and comments. So you can leave me a comment down below, or if you want, you can. I'll be posting a picture of this on Instagram. You can comment on my Instagram page, which is Mr. Smith's Kitchen also. And, well, not also, but Mr. Smith's Kitchen also. And then, or find me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm under Brian's Aquatics still, which was my old channel name, where I post all kinds of cool and funny and relative stuff. You can see pictures of the fish, the garden, other things I cook, other things I bake. All kinds of stuff between Instagram and Facebook. So, that being said, give it a shot. I'm going to cut Chris a piece of this cake because right now nobody's home but me and Chris. Kids are all at school. And enjoy each other's company for a little while. I love you. I love you very much. Tell somebody you love them and you love them very much. It's going to make their day so much better. I guarantee it. Stay safe. Get vaccinated. Please. If not for you, do it for somebody else. We're trying to change the world. All right? I'll see you later. All right? Talk to you later. Bye.